Dads, how did your child Uno reverse your rules? I thought I was being a clever parent when my 12-year-old daughter Piper kept complaining about our 2-hour daily screen time limit. She'd constantly argue that all her friends got unlimited gaming time, and that 2 hours wasn't enough to properly raid with her guild in Final Fantasy XIV. Instead of just saying no or caving to her demands, I decided to create an innovative system that would teach her about time management and delayed gratification. I spent an entire Sunday afternoon crafting what I called the screen time banking system. The concept was simple but brilliant. Piper could earn extra screen time minutes by reading books. For every page she read, she'd earn 1 minute of gaming time that she could bank for the weekend. I even created a fancy spreadsheet where she could log her reading and track her accumulated minutes. Picture books didn't count. They had to be proper chapter books at her reading level. Piper's eyes narrowed as I explained the system, and I could practically see the gears turning in her head. She asked a few clarifying questions about whether manga counted. No. If she could read multiple books at once. Yes. And if there was a maximum she could bank. I foolishly said no. We shook on it, and I mentally patted myself on the back for encouraging reading while still allowing her gaming hobby. The first few days were incredible. Piper, who usually had to be dragged to do her assigned reading for school, suddenly turned into a bookworm. I'd find her reading at breakfast, during car rides, and even walking between classes according to her teachers. She devoured the entire Percy Jackson series in 5 days. Her English teacher emailed me to say how impressed she was with Piper's sudden enthusiasm for literature. By the end of the first week, Piper had logged over 2,000 pages. I was thrilled. Sure, she'd earned about 33 hours of extra weekend screen time, but she'd also read more in 1 week than she had in the previous 3 months combined. I shared my success story in the parent WhatsApp group, and several moms asked for the details to try with their own kids. The second week, Piper's reading intensified. She discovered that our library had a massive collection of graphic novels that, while not manga, technically counted as proper chapter books at her reading level. She plowed through the entire Amulet series, all of Smile and its sequels, and made a significant dent in the Dogman collection. Her page count was astronomical, because graphic novels have way more page numbers despite being mostly pictures. Friday evening of week 2, Piper presented me with her spreadsheet. She had logged 347 pages over 2 weeks. That translated to roughly 139 hours of banked screen time. She informed me, very matter-of-factly, that she intended to use it all that weekend for a massive Final Fantasy XIV gaming marathon with her guild who was attempting some world-first raid completion. I laughed and said that was impossible. She couldn't physically stay awake for 139 hours straight. That's when Piper pulled out her second spreadsheet. She'd calculated that if she gamed for 16 hours a day, with breaks for meals and bathroom, she could use 48 hours per weekend. At that rate, her current bank would last her 3 weekends, and she planned to maintain a sustainable reading pace of about 1,000 pages per week to keep her weekends fully stocked with gaming time. I tried to argue that this wasn't the spirit of the agreement, but Piper calmly pointed out that I'd said there was no maximum banking limit and that the goal was to encourage reading, which had clearly worked. She'd even prepared a printed list of all the books she'd read with brief summaries to prove she'd actually read them and not just flipped through pages. The kicker came when she added, "Oh, and I've already told my guild about my banked hours, and they've scheduled raids around my availability. I can't let them down now. That would be teaching me to break commitments, wouldn't it?" I stood there, defeated by my 12-year-old's completely logical interpretation of my own rules. She'd gamed my system harder than any boss in Final Fantasy XIV. Even worse, I couldn't punish her for it because she'd followed the rules perfectly while also developing a genuine interest in reading. That weekend, I could hear her on Discord coaching her guild through raids while occasionally shouting things like "stack for tank busters" and "healers adjust." My husband just shook his head and said, "She gets the strategic thinking from you." Piper's now 3 months into the system. She maintains exactly 1,000 pages of reading per week, enough to fully fund her weekend gaming marathons while keeping her weekdays for homework and other activities. She's even started a book review blog to share recommendations with other kids who've been forced into similar reading for screen time arrangements by their parents. I've become something of a cautionary tale in the parent WhatsApp group. Last week, another mom messaged me privately. "My son wants to negotiate a similar deal. Any advice?" I told her to hire a lawyer to review the terms first.